Alright, chapter 6.5a is getting us close to the end of our time of work. Graphing linear inequalities today is going to be a nice way to end the week. It's a process that's simple enough to learn, and the assignment should be easy enough to finish. All we are going to do today is the main part of what we need to add in next week, which is testing the point 0, 0 to see if it's true or false. So let's just look at some problems real quick before we look at what you'll be expected to do. Testing the point 0, 0 is simple, and I'm going to do it the long way. You don't need to write this, but just follow along mentally to make sure you understand what I'm doing. So 0, 0 means that x is 0 and y is 0. So this turns into 0 is less than 9 times 0 minus 2. This turns into 0 is less than 0 minus 2, which then turns into 0 is less than, well, 0 minus 2 is negative 2. And if you were to check that, 0 smaller than negative 2, would the alligator choose a negative over nothing? Even though you might think that this is bigger, you'd rather have nothing at all, which means to be at 0, than to be in debt. Because if you're in debt, that means if you made $2, you don't really have to, because you have to give it to somebody. So this is false. On B, again, testing 0, 0, all you're doing is checking, plugging this in. And again, I hope you're not writing this because you really don't need to. I'm going to show you an easier way to do this. So plug in 0 for x, plug in 0 for y. 8 times 0 turns into 0, 3 times 0 turns into 0, which becomes 4. These two things make 0 greater than 4. Is 0 bigger than 4? No, it's also not, because the 4 would be better than 0, so this also would be false. And that's all you're doing. Move to your next one. Again, 2 times 0 plus 3 times 0 less than negative 6. This becomes 0 plus 0 less than negative 6, which then becomes 0 less than negative 6. And in the end, is 0 smaller than negative 6? That answer is no, because remember, 0 is better than every negative there. I feel like I messed up somewhere. And then the last one, 0 greater than 5 times 0 plus 1. 0 greater than 0 plus 1, because remember that turns into 0. 0 is greater than 1. That is also false. I did a terrible job of making up these parts, but again, the things I have are right, I believe. 0 is bigger than negative 2. 0 is smaller than 4. 0 is bigger than negative 6. 0 is small. Yeah, so all my answers are right. But again, this is pretty much what you're doing, and you'll see some truths on there, of course, on the computer. But looking back, you should notice that every term that had a variable either turned to 0 or disappeared. So what I want you to notice is this, looking back at this, and this is why I didn't make you write it, because you don't really need to. On the left side, we had a y. Y turned into a 0. On the right side, we had 9x minus 2, where there was no need for 9x because the 9x just disappeared, and we ended up with a negative 2. Here, 8x, which pretty much disappeared, 3y disappeared because it had a variable, which means those two things turned into 0, and this just came down. 2x is going to go away, 3y is going to go away, leaving us with 0. Negative 6 is just going to come down. Your variable, because you're plugging in 0, is going to become 0. 5x is going to disappear because it has an x, and 1 comes down. So again, that is what you will be doing when you do your part here. So I'm going to show you the 4 examples of what you're going to see today, and then you'll go and check it out and see if you can do it. It's going to give you the question. It's going to say, what's the final result? That's not the true or false. What they mean by final result is, what do you end up with when you plug in 0, 0? And so that is where you'll say, because that's going to go away, and this is going to go away, 0 is going to be over here, is greater than negative 3. Is 0 greater than negative 3? Yes, it is. That is true. And make sure you type it in with lowercase letters, but you do have to type the whole word. But again, all you'll type in is what you end up with when you plug in 0, 0. So 0 minus 0, which is 0, greater than negative 3, which is true. Here you will end up with, but again, it's going to say, what's the final result? That's going to be a 0. That's going to be 0 plus 5, because remember that goes away, which is just 5. Is 0 greater than 5? No, it is not. That is false. And so again, you'll type the full word into your computer there. y is less than 5x minus 7. Again, the final result, that's going to turn to 0. That's going to become 0. I'm sorry, that's not going to be 0. Your final result is going to be 0 less than, that's going to be 0 minus 7, which is negative 7, because remember that goes away. Your variable term typically disappears. Is 0 smaller than negative 7? That is also false. Just make sure you spell it right and do better than I did. And then the last one, these two things are going to go away, leaving us 0 on that side and 9 on that side, which is true. Now, if you don't like that method and you want to use this method of plugging it all in, just make sure you type in this for your final result. I just don't need you to be doing all that work on the computer today. So again, with that said, next week we'll get back into some things. There's some review coming up Monday and Tuesday. And then after that, we'll get ready to wrap up this year. So other than that, good luck on your homework and enjoy your weekend.